Hi friends, Concy here from atop Serenity Hill, and I'm back in my junk journal. So I shared recently a page spread in my unfold section of the junk journal that was around what was happening in the fires in LA. And once I started looking at, I started thinking about the page I had done. I started thinking about the subsequent pages in the journal that I have two more other fold out pages. And I was looking at what my next prompts were, which are bright, bubble, and tissue. Those are the next three that I'm going to group together. It started coming together as more of a story, like how can I tell a story within this junk journal? The one for the fire page is fragile. And I started thinking about how the colors how I'd laid down the colors. This was built way before the fire started. This was put together in mid-December of 2024. I know some of you are going to watch this out of order, so I just want to be cognizant of the fact that when you watch this, you might not, the fires in LA might be long over, and let's, hope that's true. But it got me thinking about how can I put a story? How can I put a story together in my art journal or my junk journal? How can I tell a story of how I feel about this, or how I feel? How can I put good energy towards this? Like I have no control over what's happening there. I don't live there. I can just, put good energy into the world and hope it ends soon. Hopefully, people can pick up the pieces, all those things. Like that is what I have control over, is how I feel about it. So how can I take that energy and infuse it in my art journal? Because I feel like we can put our energy into something and it also goes out into the world. Okay, that's my feeling. You might think differently, but this is just me explaining how I would work through something within an art journal or a junk journal. I mean, you call it, it's a junk journal, but I'm doing arty projects in it. So, back and forth. So what got me thinking was I created the story of the fire with this one, and there's a video for this. It is linked below. And then I was like, okay, well, what does a fire need to contain itself? Contain the fire. It needs water. Okay. So the next one in line, it was the blue one, which was kind of like, okay, well, let's go with that. And then what would happen after? And that would be regrowth, rebuild. And that's where the green showed up. So it was also, as far as like, if you're thinking of it in a linear way in your art journal, I kind of ended with the fire. So, and then I'm going backwards, add the water, regrowth. But it also could go the other direction, because the way that it has worked in California is that it got really green in 2023 and 2024. It had so much rain. It was very green, very lush. It had a ton of rain, and then the rain disappeared. It went back into a drought, and fire happens when, places are dry and there's no water. So it can also be this, the cycle of how nature is. Okay. So that's just a way for me to share how I think through this process and how I felt this was a good spread to tell a story. So that's one of the things I want to invite you while you're watching this video is like, how can you tell a story? What stories are happening around you right now that maybe could become something like in a fold out like this? Something that is, 3 different pages in an art journal, or you create a small art journal that just, like a zine type of art journal, and it just has a few pages in it that you can tell a story in. Okay, so that's my big spiel about telling a story. So I'm going to play now with telling the story. The fire is, hopefully we're going to contain the fire. And then what I want to do is create water, or, the illusion of water, the impression, maybe is better word, as opposed to illusion, impression of water. And I'm going to use the prompt bubble as my inspiration because, you know, bubbles of water, you know, that's what it came from. So I brought together a couple things. And oh, and one other thing is I started this sheet of butterfly stickers with here. So these are the butterflies that are kind of catching fire, if you know, like the destruction of nature. So I wanted to see, I have 3 left on the sheet. And what could I use these to tie? That would be something to also tie all 3 together. So I have a blue butterfly, which I'm going to add here. And then I have this big yellow one and the green one, which will add here. So also, how can you take one element and tie everything together within your storytelling? Okay, and for me, it's going to be the butterflies. So we'll start with bubble. The couple ideas that I had were, one, this is not a bubble, but if I want to speak to water, then I have my water drops stamp. I have a variety of blue inks that I'm going to put in. I'm going with, like, again, the impression of water. How can I put that impression on it? How can I create bubbles? So a couple other ideas is I have bubble wrap. You can't go more, you know, obvious than bubble wrap using bubbles. And then I have this something I found in my stash that is called Shimmery Goodness from the Crafter's Workshop. I have never used it. I opened it. It's delightful. It says dries clear and iridescent, adds shimmer to ordinary paint or gel. You need this. Let's see. Do we need this? I'm sure we do. But I thought it might be fun to take that and put it on the bubble wrap and put Shimmery Goodness bubbles in the background because water has a glimmer to it. Then I wanted to see, I pulled out some of the paper. And again, this is all me. How do I tie back my journal into all the pages? So I have used this kind of embossing paper in another page. I have used this as part of, that, okay? And this is actually a page in my journal, which I did my nostalgia, where I did my ticket, and all the pages and all the links are below on the playlist. So how can I bring these in? And I thought it might be fun if I just punch some circles out of these. I love all the different versions of blue. Okay, water is everywhere you go, water is slightly different colors depending on where it is, you know, the ocean, a pond, the river, where it is in the world, what's in the water. There's so many different things. So how can I represent that? And so I'm going to punch some circles out and just put them down. So I'm going to have layers of what water is. And then I'm going to add my butterfly with a little piece of what I use, the sewing pattern here. I'm going to add the butterfly so that it is half the butterfly, and you'll see what I mean, but it's half with the burning and half not, okay, to represent the water fixing the problem. All right, so I'm going to play with that, and then I will meet you back here, and we're going to do bright and tissue. All right, so let's start with Shimmery Goodness and put down, I'll do that with you actually. Let's do some Shimmery Goodness together so that you see. One thing about working on this is it needs to lie flat. So I don't need a big piece because let's pull off a tiny piece. So I love bubble wrap for, you know, everybody has bubble wrap somewhere. Oh, that's fun. Okay. And, you know, water also comes in so many different forms. Is it ice? Is it steam? You know, bubbling, water bubbles up. Rivers bubble and gurgle, or whatever you want to call it. All right, so we're going to put this down, and then I'm going to have to dry this because I won't be able to stamp or anything on top of it. I put just a little bit right in the middle. So let's let me hold it up so that you can see. All right. So a way of just adding a little shimmery goodness, because you need this, onto my page. All right, let me dry it and then we'll come back and add some more stuff. All right, so we have our fire and our representation of water, and you can still see the shimmer in the background. Tied in the butterfly to the butterfly. Cool. Well, I think it's cool. In my eyes, it's cool. So then we want to go from our water to the growth. And for this one, I have, again, my 2 butterflies, and the prompts that we're working with are bright and tissue. And I love the idea of the bubble represent water, the bright as the brightness of coming back to life, okay? And what came to mind for me was a rainbow one. I love rainbows. And so it's like a rainbow is, you know, things being refreshed after rain, things coming back, brightness, hope. And so I have a bunch of little bits of tissue paper that I'm going to glue down to represent the rainbow. And then I found these stickers in the Dollar Tree. That's why I have the, just so that you see. But what I loved about the stickers was that I don't think they were meant to be, not half dead, but they were, you know, coming back to life, if you think of it that way, like the green after, you know, something has gone dormant and is brown. I don't know that that's what it was meant to be, or if it was just a decorative element, but that's what it made me think of. So the fact that, one, if we were talking about the story as regrowth, things are going to be brown and then they start to bloom and become green again. So the stickers represent that. They also represent the story going in the other direction, which was everything was green and lush with the rain, and then the drought came back and everything started to die back. So it really is a representation of both sides of the story, which was why I bought them, because delightful. So this is going to be my bright and tissue, and the regrowth part of my story. And so I'm going to play with how I'm just going to apply all these images and stickers. And if I'm talking as far as design elements, nothing has to be fancy. You know, this wasn't super fancy. It was stenciling and some paper. This isn't fancy. I'm using the background as my inspiration, so I just punched circles out of, you know, blue paper and glued them down. So it's not that I used a ton of different things. It was just a simple representation. And so the same thing here. How can I represent just the idea of a rainbow without making a rainbow, you know, shape? How can I represent it and then add the leaves and the butterflies in, one for the regrowth, two to tie my elements together. All right, so I'm going to get started and let's see where we go with it. All right, so I've got my 3 prompts, bright, bubble, tissue, and I've got my bright and tissue. I've got and it represents the regrowth after the fire, hope. I love a rainbow for that, okay? And then I've got my bubble. Whoops, skip the bubble. I've got my bubble, okay? Of which I did the shimmer bubbles with the bubble wrap and cut out circles to represent more bubbles, to represent the water or the impression of water. And then my other one that is in a different video, which represented the fire. And then I still carried that element of the butterflies through each one, okay? And, you know, and you do have to be, you know, kind of cognizant of what you're gluing down. These stickers are very dimensional, and I can even see here and there where I know it's going to pop up, and I'm just going to trim it because it won't matter. But, you know, I cut it here. I'm just showing you these are more like logistical for when you're doing these fold out pages. The tissue works beautifully because it doesn't matter where you fold, it's going to fold. But I had to be careful of this. Like I had to glue this wing down as opposed to just using it as a sticker. And I wanted to make sure that this was a very thin paper, but this was thick. So I didn't want to have it end up on the fold. So that's a logistical thing. But there you have my unfold telling the story of what was happening in our world today. All right. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got some inspiration to go ahead and put some kind of story that's happening to you into your journal or your junk journal. And I hope you will come back and visit me for the rest of the month. And if you have not subscribed, please do so. If you have a comment about what I've done, I'd love to hear it. Always be kind and, give it a thumbs up. That always helps us here on YouTube, the creators, for YouTube to let other people know that you enjoy it and want to share it. So I hope you'll join me for some more videos. I still have more prompts to do for Junk Journal January, and then we'll go from there. All right. Thanks so much, friends. I will see you soon.